this is Stacy Sanchez from Heart Prince of God, and today I read a devotion that just stopped me in my tracks. It was a way of looking at suffering that I had never ever considered before. Several years ago, I had a friend named Ruthie, and she had cancer, and she used cancer as what she called her gift. She decided to embrace cancer, and she decided to use it as a way to draw others to the Lord. And when she would go for chemo, she would sit down by people that she didn't know, and she would say, "How are you getting through this?" And when they would tell her, she would say, "Well, let me tell you how I'm getting through it." And then she would talk to them about the Lord. And I saw through her faithfulness, through her writing, she had a blog, through the ministry that she did with her cancer, my own life was totally changed. I had a totally different shift in the way I thought about the way things come into our life and what God can do with them if we're willing to offer them to Him as a gift, to accept it as a gift from God to do something through and in and with. But today, I read this devotion on suffering, and it was saying that suffering is one of the ways that we have the privilege and the honor to glorify God. Because when we are willing to go through suffering and we're still singing praises to our God, we're still walking faithfully in obedience and humble adoration to our God in the midst of and despite and all through it, that glorifies God. People want to know, who is this God that we are willing to still have joy, that we're willing to suffer for Him? What makes Him worthy of us to be willing to suffer for Him? But this devotion then went on to say this, and this is the part that I had never ever considered before, but it is so very true. They said, suffering and glorifying God is a form of worship, because worship is the way we show God He is worthy. And then it said, suffering is the only way that we can worship God here on this earth. We'll be able to worship Him through all eternity, and what a beautiful thing that will be, to be able to worship God through all eternity, but we won't be able to worship Him through our suffering for all eternity. We can only worship Him through suffering here on this earth, because there won't be suffering in heaven. And so this devotion kind of flipped the switch on suffering, and it said, this is my opportunity. Right now, I have got to take advantage of every moment of suffering that comes into my life. Not that we look for suffering, not that we seek it out, not that we want it, but when suffering presents itself to us, we need to seize the opportunity and to use that suffering to glorify our God and to worship Him in it, because we will never get another chance this side of heaven to worship God through our suffering. Have you ever thought of suffering that way before? I hadn't, but I like that. I think it brings purpose to our suffering. It reminds us that our suffering is more than just us going through a hard time, but it is a privilege and an honor and a way that we can only on this earth worship our God and bring glory and honor to Him through the way we conduct ourselves in the midst of suffering. Isn't that amazing? And I just wanted to share that with you, and I hope that I communicated it in a way that you understood it, the way that I read it, to speak to my heart today. Suffering is a privilege and an honor when we suffer for our Lord, and we can bring glory and honor to Him by being true to Him, by being obedient to Him, by walking the road of suffering in a way that glorifies Him. But we can only do that here on this earth, because no suffering in heaven. So if by chance suffering finds its way into our life, let's seize the opportunity and welcome it in, and let's use it like my friend used cancer as a way to glorify God, to point others to Him, and to build His kingdom. All right, keep looking for this Heart Prince, and have a beautiful, blessed day.